Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday Night Live. It's so good to see you all here with your faces uncovered. I love it. Want to say hello to everybody that's online with us. Welcome. We're glad you're here with us tonight. We are continuing in our endeavor to bring good, solid information to everybody that has a Judeo-Christian mindset, people who have a biblical worldview, and we want you to have the right information, the right encouragement to get out and take back the public square. We have abandoned it to the liberal left, and it's high time we take it back. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. If you haven't done so, I want to just remind you to subscribe to us on YouTube so you can continue to stay up to date on all the stuff we got going out. You see the videos going out on YouTube right now. One of them where we interviewed the nurse is up to about 180,000 views. So it's incredible. So thank you for subscribing to that. Also follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, or you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is @RealPastorTim, so I'd love to continue to connect with you guys in that way. Also, just a couple of announcements. We do have a baptism coming up on July 11th, and I know there's a lot of places right now that still won't even open their church, let alone have face-to-face baptisms. I don't know how they're going to accomplish virtual baptisms, but I just don't play that game, and we're going to do baptism. So July 11th, if you want to be baptized, you know somebody else that wants to be baptized, or you just want to come out and celebrate people getting baptized, we're going to do that out in San Clemente on the 11th. We do have information out on social media, so love to have you guys join us for that. Everybody's tuning in online. Come on out to the beach. It's going to be a blast, and we hope many people will join us for that. Also, for the live audience and anybody who may be considering coming in to be a part of the live audience, we want you to know that at 6 p.m. we do have a prayer group that meets here. It's important that we bathe our nation in prayer. And so come on out, 6 o'clock, be a part of that. And it's just an incredible group that's been coming together and really going before the Lord, so love to have you be a part of that. Also, just some people have been asking, how can we give towards Our Watch? Really easy. You can give online at the website for Our Watch. It is a 501c3 nonprofit organization until the IRS tries to take it away. And what I say is, hey, IRS, if you're listening, come and try to take it. I dare you. I just don't see them trying. Don't see them trying, but you never know. That's enough for the announcement. Oh, so you can do it at the church, on the Our Watch website, or there's little envelopes on the back of the cards. You can do it that way. Either way, just kind of throwing that out there because people were asking. All right, so I am just totally pleased to have a man sitting next to me tonight that the Lord has brought into my life, and in many ways we are so like-minded and have been brought into this whole political arena in different times, but almost like the same time, and in almost like the same type of ways. Neither of us ever wanted to be involved in the political arena, and God has brought us into it and kind of showed us that we really don't have an option, and so
That's true.
We don't. And so we've got with us tonight the co-host of the Jen and Don Show on AM590 the Answer. Please welcome Don Dix.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you. It's great to be with you.
It's great
How
to have you here.
infrequently I actually get to be in front of a microphone and people. Usually I'm just in a studio by myself. So
You do
I'm
have
a little nervous
You have
tonight.
a voice for radio and a face for this.
You got to get it right. I have a face for radio.
I wasn't going to say that, Don. I think you're a fine-looking man.
Thank you.
And I say that in all, heterosexuality. So,
So right before, a little story, right when I got to know Tim, we went to dinner, and also at dinner was his co-pastor at a different church, Steve Kamelkoff, his brother, John Kamelkoff, a couple of other folks, and all of them have shaved heads, except for me. So all of a sudden I got this feeling I'm in this cult meeting for Men for Hair Club or something like that.
I think all of us had guns, too.
That's true, too.
Yeah.
So, but it's been a great opportunity to get to know Tim. And I'll tell you what, if I could at this moment share something with everybody that's maybe a little unplanned for you. There's an article that I thought was appropriate for tonight, and I just wanted to mention the first sentence. It's an article by Dennis Prager, and the title of it is "America's Jews and Christians Are Failing the Test of Their Lives." And the first sentence is, if you are a Jew or a Christian in America, the seriousness of your Judaism and your Christianity is now being tested. People will look back in time and wonder how religious people, especially religious leaders, specifically the clergy, could have failed in times of moral crisis. Kind of is what got us here. And I say that because Pastor Tim, his family, and Pastor Tim as a spiritual leader, this church, its staff, you folks that call this your church home, and Our Watch, your cultural impact ministry, are so needed right now. Yeah. It's so important that we have pastors that are bold, like Pastor Tim, and I would just encourage you to do everything you can to support this ministry. You're a great spiritual leader, and it's a pleasure to share the stage with you, much less our paths in life. And I'm in complete and utter awe that we have a man like this in our midst that is prepared to lead us at a time when we need faith-based leaders like you. So just lift him up in prayer and support him and his family and the staff here at this church. You're doing great things, and it's such... I mean, it's so important to see this church exploding the way it is, and the things that you do to address the culture are so needed right now. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and obviously it's just a joy being around like-minded people. God has brought some incredible people to 412 Church, which is the church that I pastor. It's just incredible people that they're awake to what's going on. They see that something is needed in our culture, and the church has been absent in fulfilling that need, and this is just a great time where we see, hey, listen, we can do something, which is what we want to talk about tonight. We can do something. And so let me just share a proverb with you guys before. I always love to open with God's word because that's what's got to drive our thinking. It's got to drive our behavior. And Proverbs chapter 24, verse 11 and 12 says, "Rescue those who are unjustly sentenced to death. Save them as they stagger to their death." And let me pause there real quick. Save them as they stagger to their death. The idea here is there are people in our culture that are staggering to their death, whether it be because of their moral discrepancies or just their spiritual blindness. People are staggering to their death, as this says. It says, don't excuse yourself by saying, look, we didn't know. For God understands all hearts, and He sees you. He who guards your soul knows you knew, and He will repay all people as their actions deserve. And that is one thing that keeps me going, and I know for many of you it keeps you going too, is that we know that, first of all, we can't hide anything from God. God is the omnipresent God and the omniscient God. He's everywhere. You can't hide from Him. He knows everything. You can't hide from Him. You know, He knows, and so He knows what we're aware of. He knows our eyes are open to the condition of our culture. We have people staggering to their death, and far be it from any of us to say, well, Lord, we didn't know. No, we knew. And it's imperative that because we know this, that we have to engage, we have to do something. When we talk, just this last Friday night, we had the MTRA, the Marietta Temecula Republican Assembly meeting here, and one of the statistics that came out was 75% of evangelical Christians didn't vote. Right. And 50% of them aren't even registered to vote. And that is, how can that be? How can that many people in the church not be registered? Shame on the pastors for not ensuring that there's voter registration at their churches.
Absolutely.
You know?
I don't think that's the case at 412 Marietta.
No, not at all. I've already said, not only will I ensure that everybody gets registered, I will tell them how to vote. I will.
We'll even pick up their ballots.
I will ballot
turn
harvest.
Them into the register of voters.
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, we learned also on Friday, don't ever mail your ballots in. That's just dangerous. But what you can do is bring them to the church, and hopefully a lot of pastors will jump on board with this, but bring them to the church, we collect them all up for you, and we go and take them directly to the registrar of voters, and we get them turned in. That way your vote is in there. And if all the evangelical Christians would vote, we would see a massive turn in our state and in our nation.
It would go a long way to making things much better in terms of electoral outcomes. Absolutely.
Right. So obviously voting is one way. We need to engage in that. We want to talk to you about some other things that you can do. Before we do that, I just want to go through a few things. I know you're all aware of what's going on, but again, we want to make sure we push information out so people understand and have the right information so they can do something with it. So let's talk about an important book that's coming out. Maybe you guys have heard of this. It's called The Irreversible Damage, The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters. If you haven't heard of this book, I want to encourage you to write it down. I'm going to be pushing this book out on social media so people can know more about this. But let me just read a little bit about this book. There's a whole long excerpt from this, but I'll just read 2 little paragraphs for you on this. It says, coming out as transgender immediately boosts a girl's social status. That's a fact. This is how this is in our culture. So it immediately boosts her social status, the author finds. And it says, but once they take this first step of transition, it's not easy to walk back. So they kind of put themselves out there. Now it's hard to kind of take it back. It says she offers urgently needed advice on how parents can protect their daughters. A generation of girls is at risk. Abigail Schreier, who's the author, her essential book will help you understand what the trans craze is and how you can inoculate your child against it, or how to retrieve her from this dangerous path. So this is going to be a great book for parents who are dealing with this. And let's face it, parents are dealing with this on levels that I never thought would be. I never thought that the trans craze would become what it's become. When I first heard about the bathroom bill and all this stuff going on in our state, I just thought, well, this has got to be a joke. But look at how fast we have seen this. And if you are a person with a Judeo-Christian mindset, you know this is an attack on, this goes all the way back to the book of Genesis. When you look at everything that's being attacked in our culture, everything goes back to the very beginning. Marriage is being attacked. Creation is being attacked. We've seen creation being attacked via evolution for a long time in our school system. But marriage is under attack. Sexuality is under attack. Gender is under attack. The fact that there's consequence to sin is under attack. Everything from the very beginning is under attack. And it's important for us to know how to address these issues. Now, this book comes out, and of course, Amazon doesn't want this book out there. So what do? They won't allow the publisher to create advertisements on their page. I'm surprised. I don't know if this surprised you. I'm surprised they're even allowing it to be sold.
Absolutely. That's a book I'm shocked that Amazon is letting through. This is just a continuum. One of the things, you mentioned the bathroom bill. One of the things that we have to really understand about what has unfolded over the last 8 years is this concept that the cultural Marxists use called incrementalism. Mm-hmm. Because, so often these things start in little baby steps that, we give an inch and it's like, okay, yes, if you have somebody that's confused, they needed to have a different bathroom to go in. So you make that accommodation and another accommodation. And pretty soon, now it's about a sexual education and academic education in elementary school that's taking this in a very perverse direction. Right. And this incrementalism is in all phases of our culture. It's not just in academia. It's in civil rights. We're seeing where incrementalism is leading us to today with for a while it was, Christian rights. It was, the marginalization of faith, taking God out of schools. That happened decades ago. But look at where it's leading us today. We're seeing now this guy that's confused about his own identity, a guy that is one of the self-proclaimed leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement, Sean King, that actually doesn't even know what race he is now calling for these rioters to pull down white Jesus in churches all over the country.
Yeah, and we actually have a slide of that. just in case you hadn't heard of it. But this is coming out. I mean, this is big news right now.
Yes, and so there is still this tendency among people to think, no, that's not going to happen. Well, a year ago, if I had said there will be massive rioting in the streets and these statues, both people with this questionable history as well as, I mean, these people don't even know what statues they're pulling down. That's because they've been educated in government schools. So it's just a statue to them. But what it is, it's dismantling America. And, you know, at the core of America was the nuclear family. They started dismantling that 50 years ago. And this book that you're talking about is just the continuation of the dismantling of the norms, the things that are the fundamental building blocks of what is a civilized society, the thing that made America strong. And now that's the foundations brick by brick are being ripped apart. And what a metaphor to see on our TVs as they are literally ripping down statues. I mean, even people that are fellow travelers of theirs, people that have no questionable history, are Ulysses S. Grant that led the Union Army to victory over the very thing that they want now reparations for. That's the head of the Black Lives Matter movement now in an interview that is now being widely circulated, said, well, I think it's time for meaningful reparations for those who, I don't know about you guys, but I never had a slave, and most of the people that are alive today were never slaves. So what's this business of reparations? It's movement. This, at the core of this, is something called cultural Marxism, where it's oppressor versus oppressed. And everything that you're seeing can be reduced into this model of oppressor versus oppressed. And it's the oppressed that are supposedly out there protesting and rioting. And now they're going after the oppressed in every single category. So is it any wonder? So don't think that stuff like Christian symbols, stained glass windows, crucifixes with Jesus on them won't be torn down, because if we don't stand up and start doing something today, that's next, guys. It's going to happen. There's no doubt about it. It should not be a question in any of our minds.
Right. You know, and again, we want to be armed with correct factual information, because people are saying, oh, well, you know, this is, the white Jesus needs to come down. And here's we have to know this. There are pastors, even pastors in this valley that many of you live in. There are pastors here arguing that the white Jesus should be taken down. This is what's going on in our own community right here. Yeah, tear it down. You know, and they're saying, well, you know, you guys have to understand Jesus wasn't white. Well, let's understand what Jesus was. I mean, Jesus was a Jew. Jesus was of the Semitic people. Jesus was not an Arab. Jesus was not black. Jesus was not white. Jesus was Semitic. And we have to understand that. Like, and we have Semitic people in our culture here. Adam Sandler, right? Rob Schneider. These are Jewish men. That's what Jewish people look like. So you can draw your own conclusion, but that's the Semitic people. Okay, and we have to know that. I mean, if people are going to question us, we have to be able to respond and say, okay, you're right. He wasn't white. He was Semitic. And Semitics are Jews, and that's what Jesus was. I mean, he's the king of the Jews, right? So we have to be armed with factual information. And many of these people that are out calling for this kind of stuff, they're not armed with factual information. They don't even have a cursory understanding of basic history.
Well, even people, and it's interesting, one of the things I do enjoy is when I see a tweet like this where Sean King came out and said this. I love going through the comments to see how people are responding to that. And one of the things that they really confronted him on was that his entire premise for them going to Egypt was incorrect. Going to Egypt to blend in, because of course people in Egypt were black. No, it was out of the legal reach of Herod. That was the reason, one of the main reasons they left to go there was that, you know, and so they get the story wrong. But let's just strip away all of that and say, this isn't even about that. This is about tearing down Christianity. Right. It's not the white Jesus. That's just the front of this. What's behind it is tearing down the Christian faith and trying to remove it and marginalize it. And then beyond that, this thing that someone was talking about on a podcast today, and that is, it's about raw political power. It's about making us feel intimidated. Think about this. This cancel culture is getting people fired because of who they like on their Twitter account. Not even what they're saying, it's who they like. So if you all of a sudden feel yourself questioning, well, you know what? I do support Donald Trump for president of the United States, but I don't know about that Trump bumper sticker. They've won. Just the fact that we begin to think about curtailing our own actions and our own speech, even on social media or at the store. Well, you know, I might not want to say this or that or the other thing because I might get attacked for that belief. That's raw political power that we're seeing unfold. And when we feel intimidated in any way, for any speech, in any setting, at a family setting. I mean, right now, of course, what is Thanksgiving and Christmas going to look like this year? Right? They told us last year, don't bring up religion and politics. What's it going to be like this year after the November 3rd election, win, lose, or draw? And I think it's going to be a long, drawn-out election season. There's a reason, so we'll talk about this, but there's a reason that the stage is being set right now for an election like we've never seen before. And we may not know the results of that election for weeks.
Right.
Be prepared.
Right. Yeah. And look at everything that's going on in our culture. You can see that throughout the culture, there is, when we talk about this a lot, there's a spiritual battle. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, right? This is a very spiritual battle that we are all in right now. And I think over the next several months, and we're going to see even more how spiritual this is. First of all, it's going to ramp up. It's not over. This is going to ramp up. It's going to get worse. Not to scare anybody. This is exciting. If you're a believer in Christ, this is an exciting time to live. But we look at the spiritual battle that's taking place, and we're going to find that there's something even more nefarious to the masks that we didn't realize. There's even more to the social distancing, even more to the isolation, even more to the hand washing. We're going to start seeing that behind the scenes, there's even more to this than we even realize. I mean, think about how arbitrary some of this stuff is. You know, we wear the mask, but, you know, you can have it, just put it on your face. I mean, it doesn't even have to cover your nose. Just make sure it's there. And the whole idea is it's an act of submission. This is what's going on. It's like, we're going to get you to submit. It's not even about the health, because we've heard over, you guys have been here, you've heard from doctors, you're going to hear again from a doctor next week. There is zero science behind wearing the mask and it preventing it. So what is it? This is a movement to submit a society. That's what's going on. Look at the social distancing. Why 6 feet? I mean, why not 5'11"?
Because the virus knows it can't go 6.5 feet.
Right. You know, I mean, think about it. You get to the grocery store and they have a mark on the thing, stand here, and then 6 feet, stand there 6 feet. So you know, 6, 6, 6, and then stand over there and 6. I mean, there is something going on behind the scenes, and it's very, very spiritual. So we're going to unpack that over the next couple of months and talk about what's going on even more. But because we want to know, we want to be awake to what God is doing, what Satan's doing.
Here's the most miraculous thing I think about this virus. The virus knows that it's not supposed to infect protesters that are out
Wait a minute,
rioting.
what type of protesters?
Well, the rioters,
Okay.
the protesters out in our city.
Yeah.
But it is supposed to affect the people that are protesting the lockdown like you were a part of.
Right.
That's a pretty smart virus, that it knows who to infect and who not to.
Right. It's incredible.
It is.
Yeah. Whoever designed it, brilliant. Yeah. So this is just information. We'll make sure you have that. Again, we're going to kind of unpack this a little bit more over the next couple of months. But what do we do? And that's why I've invited Don out, because we want to know, like, there's got to be next steps. We don't want to walk away going, man, there's a whole bunch of garbage going on in our culture. It can almost be overwhelming. But I'm telling you, there are things that we can do. And Don, you've got a plan, and I'm excited for you to unveil at least a portion of that tonight.
I will unpack as much of it as I've already developed or has already been developed by the steering committee. It's not me, but as the spokesperson tonight, I'll unpack as much of it as possible, and I'm hoping the rest of you will help me design it. Are you guys up for that? You want to help create this?
You have a video.
I do have a video that I think we should start out with. So let me just set the stage for this a little bit. because as we look at what's unfolding, yesterday there was an election in New York. And Eliot Engel is a 31-year incumbent congressman with a massive war chest. I know, right? With a massive war chest. He had the endorsement of Hillary Clinton, the governor of New York, Cuomo, Chuck Schumer, the minority leader of the Senate, and he is losing by double digits to some... I mean, I set that up a little wrong, so your reaction is appropriate for the way I set it up. He is losing to another AOC-type candidate who is an out-of-nowhere candidate by like 20 points. He was up at the beginning of May. This guy was had polled at 10%, Eliot Engel at 43%. And today he is losing by the reverse of that. All since May 25th, when this madness unfolded. And he's not the only one that's losing. There are other entrenched establishment Democrats, because this was a primary, that aren't going to make it to the general election. Same thing that AOC did, primaried the entrenched establishment. In Nevada, the Democrat Party is now led, 9 out of 10 executive seats in the Nevada Democrat Party are held by far-left progressives. All over the country, this stuff is happening underneath the radar. The video you're going to see is of a candidate for city council in Denver from April of 2019. Now, the one thing that we're seeing about a lot of these people is they're getting a lot more bold. They are no longer, they are in your face telling you exactly what their intentions are. So this is only 43 seconds. I would encourage you to go to the article that this is embedded in. The article, you can search for it by typing into your favorite search engine, 700 socialists. The article is on the site American Majority, and the article is about 700 socialists who have been elected to political offices up and down the political subdivision hierarchy from city council up to Congress. And this lady is being so transparent with her intentions, you would think she would be resoundingly turned down at the voting booth. Watch the video and we'll talk about what happened.
I don't believe that our current economic system actually works. Capitalism by design is extractive, and in order to generate profit in a capitalist system, something has to be exploited. That's land, labor, or resources. And I think that we're in late phase capitalism, and we know it doesn't work, and we've got to move into something new. And I believe in community ownership of land, labor, resources, and distribution of those resources. And so whatever that morphs into, I think is what will serve community the best, and I'm excited to usher it in by any means necessary.
I've listened to that clip 100 times and it still sends a chill up my spine. And that is a clip that you should share if there's any doubt in what's unfolding in this country. That is a clip you should share as much as possible by any means necessary. That means outside the political norms of how things work. That's what we're seeing today. By any means necessary. That is their intention. Community ownership of land, labor, and resources. Capitalism is in its end phase. It's extractive. Whatever that means. She got that from her progressive liberal professor at whatever university she attended. This is Marxism, this is communism, this is socialism. And she was elected to the Denver City Council. In fact, bringing the story a little further forward, before the shutdown really gained steam, she said, if I get COVID, I'm going to go to a Donald Trump rally and infect everybody. That's by any means necessary. These people are serious. They're serious about taking this country down a different path, and I believe you could stop that at taking this country down. And unless we have a way to address this at the voting booth and getting people registered, but folks, it goes way beyond that. We have allowed this to metastasize for 5 decades. It's not going to change overnight, but we have to begin a process of turning this around. So as onerous and as tough as it is to digest some of this, and the tendency is to feel a little oppressed by what's unfolding and a little discouraged, I think we can find hope in a lot of places. Now, I mentioned she's from Denver, Colorado. What happened to open the door for her was 4 progressives went to Colorado starting in 2000, in the mid-2000s. 4 progressives with $15 million. And they flipped Colorado from a red state to a blue state. How'd they do that? They had a plan. That plan is codified in a book called The Blueprint. You need to write that book down. It's available on Amazon. Buy it used, buy it dog-eared, but buy it. Because in that book, and Hugh Hewitt, who's on our radio station, AM590, between 3 and 6 now, 6 to 9 drive time on the East Coast, did the foreword and called this the most important book that Republicans have never read. Read it and understand the strategies and the tactics that they use to flip the state. Strategies and tactics don't care who you are. They don't care about anything. They're just strategies and tactics, and they can be used by anybody. Folks, I think it's about time we started using the strategies and tactics that work, that have been demonstrated as working, so that we can start in our own community from the bottom up to flip seats, to flip the thinking in our communities from the way it's going right now to where it should be.
Right. You know, I'm hearing everything you're saying, and I'm hearing what she said, and we're definitely, I'm coupling that with what God's Word said. The verse I brought up in the beginning, look, we didn't know. I mean, who now could stand before God and go, look, God, I just didn't know. I mean, it's so abundantly clear. It's not even disguised anymore.
Right.
You know, it used to be like so thinly veiled, and they, oh gosh, like what's going on? Do they really, like now they're just coming out saying, we want to take over. We want a fundamental change in America. We don't like capitalism, which, by the way, when you read the Word of God, capitalism is the only thing that God blesses. When you look at structure, I mean, somebody has a desire to work hard, a desire to see an opportunity and go seize that opportunity and get off the couch and not be lazy. God blesses that. God does not bless socialism. He certainly does not bless communism.
Right.
Capitalism, where people actually work hard and seize opportunities, that's what God blesses. And they're just very open and honest. It's weird. They're honest about their intentions now. It's not even like they have to lie anymore. They're not even lying. They're coming out and just telling you, we want to take over. We, by any means necessary, we'll do whatever we have to, and we don't care.
You know, one of the greatest gifts that the last 3 years has given us, whether you are for or concerned about or against Donald Trump, the era of Donald Trump, the Donald Trump presidency has scraped the protective coating off of all of this. And we're now seeing it for what it is. We're seeing how the different institutions in America in a different way. Now, I saw some of this beforehand, but for those that were casually watching it, they never saw it. But he has scraped that protective coating off, and we now see for what they are, the entertainment industry, for what it is, the cultural Marxism in the entertainment industry, and where liberalism is taking our culture that our kids are being exposed to. We're seeing it more thoroughly in academia and the results. That lady is a direct result of academia. She learned that stuff in school. She didn't learn that stuff at home. That was taught to her. We're seeing it in our bureaucracies now. And we got a little bit of good news, speaking of bureaucracies. We got an appellate court that actually sided with General Flynn today and is sending, you know, that activist judge packing. But we're seeing it in the bureaucracies now. I mean, I think Donald Trump was as surprised as we were as he found how thoroughly corrupt our bureaucracies were with people that had a political agenda. The entire thing that unfolded, the whole Crossfire Hurricane investigation, was about a bureaucracy run amok that had politicized a law enforcement agency against an American political candidate. That is chilling. And we even saw it under the Barack Obama administration when they weaponized the IRS against groups that were filing for 501c3 status who were denied. Catherine Engelbrecht, who started True the Vote in Texas. You know, we had, you mentioned the NTRA meeting. We've got an effort called Election Integrity Project here in California. But one of the original organizations, her organization, True the Vote, she was attacked by 5 different agencies that had nothing to do with a 501c3 filing. OSHA came after her, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, other organizations that I forget now because the story is now 7 years old, but she was literally attacked by the Barack Obama administration. They weaponized these agencies against her. So, what do?
We can do something.
We can do something.
Yeah.
What we can't do is you do the same thing over and over again expecting a different result. The definition of insanity. We have to do something different. And for some of us, it means climbing outside our comfort zone a little bit. So
before you say this, so God got upset with the people because he said, listen, the people in the world are more shrewd than you. He's upset with his people. He's saying, be shrewd. And we need to be shrewd. Now is the time for us to go, okay, what's working? Because if something's working, like the whole ballot harvesting, yeah, that's a trick of the left, but if they're doing it and it's legal, I'm going to do it. We're going to do it. So let's be shrewd. So have an open mind as Don shares some of this stuff with you, because I think we really need to find a different way. Because I'll tell you this, the way we've been doing it doesn't work.
Right.
Because we're losing.
And I don't know about you, but I'm tired of attending meetings that don't do anything. So we got to, I'm okay about attending meetings. We're attending one tonight, but then there's some action steps that follow meetings. You got to follow through with those action steps. So one of the first things, when I was growing up, I was blessed to grow up in Baltimore, Maryland at a time when civics was taught as a part of elementary school. So instead of us learning about gender dysphoria and questioning our own anchoring and how confusing is that for a second grader to am I really a boy or a girl? It's confusing enough. So I grew up when civics was taught. So the blessing for me was I got to understand the blessing of our founding documents, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. What I learned then was about the process of what I'll call the proper care and feeding of a constitutional republic. We have lost touch with what that is. There is specific actions besides voting that we need to take care of, that we need to engage in for the proper care and feeding of the constitutional republic. The underpinning of that is what Judge Brandeis, who was a Supreme Court judge at the beginning of the 20th century, one of his most famous quotes was, and of course Brandeis University, like all universities, have been taken over. By the way, if the political left wants a target for doing their tearing apart and burning down because of the roots of some of these people that are statues, slave owners, maybe they should go tear down Harvard and Yale. Because after all, those organizations, Harvard owned slaves. They should tear down the universities. That would help us in fixing the problem. Yeah. But no, I'm not advocating any sort of violence, trust me. But he said the most important political office in the country is private citizen. We have political power that we have forgotten how to use. We see people right now deploying their political power in the public square by ripping down statues and ripping up businesses. That's not the kind of political power I'm referring to, but it is creating for them political power. There's even people saying that Black Lives Matter should become its own political party now. So that would be scary. So we're also in an era that rewards what I call political entrepreneurism. Now, we all know what entrepreneurism when it comes to a business. Find a need and fill it. Political entrepreneurism is sort of the same thing, but we have opportunities like we have never had before because there's a vacuum out there of opportunity. I'm a perfect example. In 2008, I heard Barack Obama say those words about we're 5 days away from fundamentally transforming this country. And I was like, well, what do you mean by fundamental? You don't stand at the altar and go, I'm moments away from fundamentally transforming this woman I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, or man. That's not why you get married. That's not why you become president, to transform. And yet that's what he was talking. He was sending a message to us. So what is proper care and feeding of a constitutional republic? So how many of you went with Pastor Tim down the street to the school board meetings where we were standing up against the agenda of teaching our kids this perverted sexual agenda? Raise your hands. That is proper care and feeding of a constitutional republic. Holding elected officials accountable to what the people say they should be doing. Because if you don't, that creates a vacuum. Guess who was there that night that took every seat in the building? The unions, right? We were standing out in the hallway because they knew what was going on. They knew how to exert their political power, and they filled that room up. So we stood in the hallway. That's political power. We need to understand better how to exert our political power, and we need to understand better how to wield it.
And they understand how to wield that power.
Yes, they do.
Which was why when we had set up for us to be at the school board meeting, the teachers union sent out an email to all the teachers and had phone conferences with all the teachers and said, as soon as school's out, you get in your car and you drive straight over, and we're going to let you in the back door and let you in and fill up all the seats. That way the parents have to stand outside. And I heard them saying this to the teachers. They don't know I heard it, but I heard them with my own ears. I heard them telling the teachers, get there, fill up the seats, that way, and then wear your red communist shirts.
Right. So let me ask you a question. Serious question. How would you guys like to be at the epicenter of a political movement that can turn this state around?
I know I would.
Would you like that? Good. And I want to tell you, as much as I'm going to share this with you, I am open. This is a plan that is just unfolding before our eyes, but we need people to bring their ideas. You guys have skills and talents to bring to this. Everybody in this community has skills and talents. But the time for sitting at home, the time to think that somebody else is going to take care of things, the time when we can hope to elect people at the ballot box that are going to represent our interests is over, folks. That era is gone by. Every one of us in this room, every one of us that's watching this at home, every one of us that watches this video in the days and weeks that unfold after this, it's up to us. We can develop a plan to register voters and educate them about what side of the ballot represents their interest. We can have a plan that builds a bench of viable candidates that teaches people how to run for office. There are so many people that go, you know what, I want to run for Congress. They don't have a lick of an idea of what's involved in mounting a campaign, let alone what's required of somebody once they get into office. They overreach, which is why we stumble and stumble and stumble. It begins with finding out what boards and commissions there are in our cities, the planning commissions and all the different boards, and getting on those and controlling those commissions and working within those. Increasing voter turnout, get out the vote, which is what I'm going to talk to you tonight about, taking political control of our neighborhoods. How many of you, how many of you know all the people that live on your street? All of them. Right? We don't. Right? We've got a perfect opportunity. What, you have like 2 people that live on your street? I'm joking. We have a perfect opportunity with what's unfolding in the media to knock on somebody's door and go, did you see what happened? I mean, are you as concerned? I hear fireworks going off in Corona all the time, and I'm beginning to wonder, are they trying to desensitize us to this popping sound so that all of a sudden when it's an actual gun, we're like sitting in our living room going, oh, it's just a gun. I mean, it's just a firework, just a gun. So we need a plan for taking political control of our neighborhoods. And we have the perfect environment to knock on our neighbors' doors. Now, part of this plan is we're not going to knock on our socialist neighbors' doors. Because the last thing I want to do is get in an argument. When I took over the leadership of a chapter of Act for America in Corona, there were 150,000 people who lived in Corona, and I reasoned that there were probably 10% of the people in the city that felt like I did, but didn't know that we existed. You knock on somebody's door and go, do you know about the Marietta Temecula Republican Assembly? And I guarantee you, ask somebody in a grocery store line, did you know that there's a Republican GOP Central Committee that operates in Riverside County? No, I had no idea. I'd never even heard of a Central Committee. It actually sounds kind of communist to me. And it does. But the point is, most people have no idea there's organizations out there that need their help. We need to educate them a little bit to let them know. And at the same time, let them know what's actually unfolding and what's at stake in this upcoming election. So I have a slide of a town hall that we did a couple of weeks ago. So if we can go to that slide right now. So how many of you have heard, by show of hands, the Keep California Safe Act? Oh, this is beautiful. You guys are bearing witness to the beauty of this opportunity that we have.
For those of you that don't know much about it, in 2 weeks you're going to hear a lot about it because the district attorney, Mike Hestron, is going to be here to talk about it. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
And you need to fill this room up. Because if you've heard of Proposition 47, 57, and AB 109, this trifecta of marginalizing our criminal justice system and dumbing down our criminal justice system. I was in Walmart about a year ago, and I walked in at 11:45. And the security guard at the gate said, grab your stuff. How are we doing on time, by the way? Because I could go.
10 minutes.
We got 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Got to go fast. Because you got 15, the security guard said you got 15 minutes to get your stuff and get out. And I, wait a minute, you're open 24 hours. And they said, not anymore. We're closed between, this is the Walmart in Corona, we're closed between 12 and 6 a.m. in the morning because we can't get the police to respond to shoplifters that know that they can come in and take $900 worth of merchandise and know that the cops will be called, but they won't come. That's just one major problem with Prop 47 and 57, but that, keepcalsafe.org, write that down and look at what Prop 47 and 57 did to our criminal justice system. And by the way,
and we voted for it.
And we voted for it because it had keep schools safe, keep your neighborhood safe, you know? All these titles and ballot descriptions that weren't about what was really in this thing. So we had this town hall, and we had 415 people register for it online, and 250 people showed up. Blew my mind. I had no idea there were that many. Well, I knew that, I mean, are you guys like ready, chomping at the bit, ready to go? Everybody is that is seeing this unfold. They're like, just show me what to do. We're going to talk about what to do. So we did that, and then tomorrow night, we've got our second town hall, and these are going to happen every 2 weeks. This is to begin, and that's going to be on the ballot in November. Tomorrow night, the next slide is what's also now going to be on the ballot, and that is the gutting of Prop 13. They're going to do what's called split roll. How many of you heard of split roll? Okay, a lot of you haven't. Split roll is the gutting of Prop 13 and carving out business property to tax that at current levels, which will raise between $12 to $15 billion.
And then
every
guess
year.
what's next?
Right. Business properties, do you think they're going to stop there? Remember the rule of the left, incrementalism? They're coming after your homes. Imagine paying 2 to 3% on your home's value, because that's what's going to happen when real estate values pop. So we're doing that tomorrow night. I would encourage you all to attend, because at the end of that town hall, we're going to talk about the plan, and we're going to talk about the training, the online training we're doing to educate people about how to take political control of their neighborhoods, what that means, how do you do it, and it's in a very non-confrontive way. So it's bit.ly/town hall June 25 for tomorrow night. Starts at 7. It runs about an hour and 15 minutes, and we'll tell you, where is it? It's on your computer. Yeah, it's a Zoom town hall. I call them Zoom halls. So the next slide, I'm going to go through these really quickly, but I just want to give you a sense of what is at stake. Let's just blow past this because we've only got now 7 minutes. This is registration information. We really don't need it within the context of where we're at. Go to the next slide, the next one. Okay, so the proven choice. I just want to give you a sense that there's actually a plan to educate people about what to do. This is part of what we're going to be training people on Saturday to do in their neighborhoods. How do you take political control of your neighborhood? We're going to give you a list of the voter registration data for everybody on your street. This is how it works. You're going to go knock on that person's door and go, you know what, we've never met, but I figure with everything that's going on out there, it's time that we connect because maybe the safety of our neighborhood might be at stake one day. By the way, there's an election coming up. Have you heard of the Keep California Safe Act? Why, no, I haven't. Well, I've got an article. I just want to leave it with you. Read it, and I'll stop back by in a week or so, and I'd like to talk to you about that. It's that simple. And you begin to build a relationship so that in September, you start knocking on those same doors of those same neighborhoods, and if you do a real good job, we can take you to the next level. At the outer side of that circle, those are volunteers, and then we basically have people that will coordinate other volunteers, and then coordinators of. So there is a system, and it's that system that elected Donald Trump in 2016. That's the system that got those 5 states, along with us calling into those states, that got him elected. So that volunteer we call a neighborhood influencer, because you're going to start influencing people. Because guess what? In September, you're continuing to build that relationship, taking them information about the split roll, about candidates, about other stuff. Do you know who that knucklehead is that's running for city council? I've got an article for you. And you share with them the article. You build that relationship, give them that information. And then what happens in October, on October 3rd? Anybody here sign up for absentee voting? What do they mail out 30 days before the election day? Your ballots. Now, if Newsom has his way, everybody's going to get one. Boy, that's going to cause some confusion and probably a nightmare scenario for our election. But that can't stop us because you're going to go knock on their doors after October 3rd. Hey, did you get something in the mail? Did you get your ballot? You got any questions? Remember we were talking about that Keep California Safe Act. We were talking about split roll, that thing that now we know the proposition, we know the number on the ballot. We can tell you that they're using trickery to trick you into a yes vote is actually a no vote. We don't know the wording yet or the summary that the Secretary of State and the Attorney General are going to assign to that. But that begins. That's exactly what the Democrats are doing. And those slides that I had to skip over show you the evidence of that at the March 3rd election and how in the 60th Assembly District they used ballot harvesting on March the 3rd in order to shift the results of the election. We have to do the same thing. So if you guys are up for it, are you up for it? I don't know. Are you up for it?
So you want to get them connected.
Right.
There's a couple of ways they can connect. Because here's the deal. I mean, we're talking about having neighborhood influencers. If Christians aren't the neighborhood influencers, then we have a problem. Because here's the fact that God called us to be the influencers. That's the whole idea of being the salt and the light. We're going to preserve our community. We're going to shed light into this world that brightens up people's day, yes, but it also exposes the wickedness.
Yep.
If we're not doing this in our own neighborhoods, then we're not being what God's called us to be. So each and every one of us is the neighborhood influencer. And if we can take that job seriously, God can use us in a great way. Maybe we won't have some nationwide effect, but we'll definitely have an effect locally. And all politics is local anyways.
It is all local.
So, the thing is, you can accomplish much. And I think this election season, God's going to use us in a great and a powerful way. So there's 2 ways, online or you have a card here.
Well, now actually online, because I was going to hand out cards and I realized just go to that website and register for the webinar, whether you can attend it or not. By registering, we'll capture your name, your email address, your phone number, the city you live in, and your zip code. And that's all we need in order to help you take the next step and get into the training. Now, I'd encourage you to go to the meeting. But by entering that information, we will then be sending you the information as this plan unfolds throughout the summer so that you can get it. Just get on our email list, and that's the way to do it. So registering for the Zoom hall meeting tomorrow night. And here's a clue. To register for any, so if you're watching this a week or two down the road and this has already happened, all you need to do is enter this into your URL, bit.ly/town hall, and every other Thursday we will create a new URL for that next town hall. So you can already know that you can register for the webinar that's going to happen 2 weeks from tomorrow night.
Awesome.
We got a new musician that's trying out over there.
All right. So besides that, how can everybody connect with you? I mean, obviously they can listen to you on AM590, The Answer,
right.
the Jen and Don show that airs at
6 o'clock every night, and you can listen to it because sometimes people say, well, I can't get it in the car. There's no excuse. You can listen to it on your smartphone. You can download the AM590 app to your smartphone. You can go to your computer and listen to it on your computer. If you happen to have infected your home with one of those Alexa devices, you can say, Alexa, play AM590, and believe it or not, Alexa will start playing AM590, and there's a great lineup of folks. Or you can text me at 202-870-8391.
Say that one more time slower.
202-870-8391.
All right. And they can follow you on Twitter.
And follow me on Twitter or on Facebook. Friend me on Facebook. A lot of the stuff I post on Facebook. You don't
Twitter
even
handle?
need to friend me because I make all my posts on Facebook public.
And your Twitter handle?
Is Real Don Dix. At Real Don Dix.
At Real Don Dix.
Yep.
I love it. At Real Pastor
Parler.
Tim.
And I'm going
Real
over
Don
to
Dix.
Parler. That's the new place for conservatives to go for their social media experience. Parler. Sign up there.
Awesome. All right. Well, Don, thank you so much for coming out.
Oh, gosh,
I always
thank you, Tim.
appreciate you, the friendship we have, the camaraderie we have. I'm so glad God brought you into my life. And
Ditto that.
I hope you're glad that he brought me into yours. Time will tell. But it's been just a blast so far. The things that we've been able to do together has just been incredible. So thank you. And I hope you guys will sign up, get involved, become a neighborhood influencer. We've got a lot of work to do between now and November. So one last bit of information for you. Next week, we've got Dr. Jeff Barkey coming out. So that's going to be a blast. If you haven't heard of Dr. Jeff Barkey, crawl out from under the rock that you've been living in and look him up. I'm just teasing, but just Google him or go on YouTube, Dr. Jeff Barkey. He spoke at we had a protest out in front of I say protest.
Okay, rally.
But rally. I want the state opened up, so I was there in protest. But I got to preach the Word of God. I was happy about that. Dr. Jeff Barkey got to speak more. He kind of has a very similar message of Dr. Erickson. But one of the things he's doing tonight, and we're going to talk about next week, his wife is on the Orange County Board of Education. And tonight what they're doing is they got a group of people to be very transparent with that board because not everybody out there in the Orange County School Board is being very transparent. But they're getting a group of doctors together and giving a program, a plan on how they can reopen the schools without the masks and without the social distancing.
And without the sex ed curriculum?
Oh, and well, he can talk about that as well. Dr. Jeff Barkey and I, we've been doing stuff together for quite some time now. In fact, he was the first doctor to speak at the very first parent information night that I did out at Calvary Chapel, East Anaheim. He was the doctor that spoke there. So we've been in this fight together for a long time. Now he's talking about the mask. Again, there's going to be more coming out about the masks and the social distancing. There is something very, very demonic going on there, but more to come on that. But next week, Dr. Jeff Barkey, he's going to talk about what happened tonight. how that went with the school board and how we all can work on implementing that here in our community, because I know most parents with a brain do not want their kids going to school with a mask or social distancing. So we got to know how we can approach our county's Board of Education and our local school boards, because, again, the private citizen.
Yep.
We have to let our voice be heard. So we're going to talk about that next week. You're going to want to invite some friends and some family members out to hear more from Dr. Jeff Barkey. So again, Don, thank you
My
so
pleasure.
much. Everybody, thank you for being here tonight. And and thank you for everybody that tuned in online. Thank you for joining us here Wednesday Night Live. We will see you next week. God bless.